So yeah, it's
We're-
nice to finally see you in person, although it's still via online.
Yes.
Right.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you. So where are you located now? Are you in China or in UK?
Right now I'm in China. Yes, I'm in China right now. I've been in China for the whole year
Oh, cool.
and just about to start a master's degree in China.
Oh, cool. May I know which university?
It's at Ningbo, Nottingham University.
Okay.
It's a UK branch school in
Yes.
China.
Cool. That's good to know. Can you tell us more about yourself? You can also do an introduction of yourself in Chinese.
Okay. I guess I can use Chinese to introduce myself. So 你可以叫我威廉，我叫威廉，我今年26岁，然后我现在哦，我是英国人，我来自英国，然后我出生在一个城市叫利物浦，但是我在北爱尔兰长大。然后今年我一直在国内，一直在中国，没有回国。所以我现在在一个大学，也叫宁波诺丁汉大学。我在这里读硕士，读国际关系专业的硕士。但是我还没开学，我下周要开学。但我已经住在中国快4年了。我第一次来中国是2016年10月好像，然后我当时是一个英语老师，我当时是在北京教英语，然后好像2018年我去了清华大学，然后学了一个汉语课程。所以然后今年结束了我的中文学习，然后马上要开始读这个硕士，所以这是我现在的计划。
Oh my goodness, you speak better Chinese than I do, Liam.
Thank you.
Right. It's interesting to know that you've been in China, like you've lived in China for quite a long time. So how's the experience so far? Can you describe your experience living in China so far?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I've been living in China for almost 4 years. And I mean, I've had an overwhelmingly positive experience so far, and that's why I'm still here. So I spent most of the time in Beijing. I came as a British Council English teacher and came to Beijing. So I was teaching there for 2 years, and I had a great time at the school. I got on really well with the teachers and the students, and really enjoyed living in a big city like Beijing because I grew up in Northern Ireland, which is quite a sparsely populated part of the UK, very small population. And so I wasn't used to big crowds of people and huge skyscrapers and all this kind of thing. So it was a very novel experience and very enjoyable. Some things take a while to get used to, like the crowds of people and the food and that kind of thing, but you get used to it eventually, and most things are very easy to get used to. The food is wonderful. I mean, that's one of the things that China's, of course, most famous for. The UK does not have that many famous dishes, unfortunately, but China makes up for that. So I've had a lot of time to travel around the country. I've been to many cities around China. So I've been through the north. I've been to Harbin, which is probably the furthest north I've been, which is where they have the ice and snow festival every year, and the temperatures go down to about -30, which is very cool. And then I've been down the south of China. I've been to Guangzhou and Hong Kong and that region. So I've been all around the country and met a lot of Chinese people and had a really good time here. And yeah, I'm just about to start my master's degree now in international relations, which I'll be starting next week. And I'll be doing that for a year. And then, yeah, I think after that, I'd like to continue living in China. But I'll have to wait and see what my plans are, or what if I can find some work opportunities. We'll have to see.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting to know. And then also, I remember you mentioned that you studied at Tsinghua, right, for Chinese language?
Yes,
Right.
yes,
And then you also studied at BLCU online Chinese language program, right?
yes.
So, like, how did it happen? I mean, when was the first time you learned Chinese? And then, like, why do you decide to learn Chinese?
Yeah, before I came to China, I couldn't speak any Chinese. All
Mm-hmm.
I knew was 你好, 谢谢, and 再见. So that's all I learned. That's all I could say, and I couldn't even say it with the right tones. So I couldn't speak any Chinese. And when I arrived, it was difficult to communicate with people because of the language barrier, and it takes time to overcome that. So I started taking lessons while I was a teacher, the online lessons with
Mm-hmm.
BLCU, and I started taking them in 2017. So that's about a little over 3 years ago
3 years,
now.
yeah.
And the online classes were great. I could take them, in the evenings. I could choose the time when I wanted to study. So I'd be teaching English during the day, come home in the evening, and then I could have maybe 1 or 2 hours of the online classes with the teacher from BLCU. So, and it's good to have one-to-one classes as well, which is actually an advantage to going to university and studying at, say, Tsinghua, which is also what I did. Because if you go to a university like Tsinghua or Beida and you want to study Chinese there, do the Chinese course, yes, of course, it's a very reputable course and you'll learn a lot. But you're going to be in groups. You're going to be in a class of maybe 10 other students at least, and you're not going to have a lot of one-to-one interaction with the teacher,
Right.
because the teacher doesn't have time to focus on every single student in the class. They only have time to focus on the class as a whole. So you're not going to get that one-to-one interaction. When you do the online classes, you're getting that immediate feedback. If you're saying the tone's wrong, the teacher's going to correct you immediately.
That's right.
You're getting that constant monitoring from the teacher that really helps you to improve fast. So I've done the online classes with BLCU, I've done the Tsinghua group classes, both had their benefits, but the one-to-one classes I think I would probably prefer to the Tsinghua experience. Yeah, I would recommend it. Yes. Like I said, you can choose the time when you want to study. You're getting the immediate feedback. You get to choose what you want to study. If you want to focus on speaking, you can arrange that with the teacher. If you want to focus on reading, that's also okay. So you choose the content, you choose the time. It's one-to-one. So yeah, I would recommend it. There's a lot of advantages to doing it that way.
Can you, share any tips or tricks, or like how can somebody like me maybe, or like all the beginners level students can improve their Chinese language? Like what's the best way, or like what's, like the most efficient way in your experience to like improve our Chinese level?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is that you need to have a lot of patience when you're studying Chinese, and you need to be, realistic about your goals, because maybe you've studied another language before, maybe you've studied French or Spanish, and as an English speaker, those languages are just objectively easier and take less time to study to get to reach proficiency compared with Chinese. So you need to be more realistic and realize it's going to take more time to reach an intermediate level. So the gap between beginner and intermediate is a significant uh, it's a significant amount of time to switch from beginner to intermediate. So you need to be patient about that, because you're going to be studying things that you wouldn't have encountered previously if you were studying other languages like French or Spanish. You've got the tones, so you've got the ma 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 ma. Every character has a specific tone, and you need to say the tone correctly. Otherwise, you might get mistaken for saying something else. So the tones are very important. And you need to learn those from the very beginning. Some people don't pay attention to them at the beginning. They get to a more intermediate level, and then it's very difficult for them to sort of fix their pronunciation once they've reached a higher level. So you really want to be focusing on pronunciation from the beginning, even if it means speaking really slowly and steadily. That's just the way you have to do it. Don't rush it. Focus on pronunciation from the beginning. The other thing, of course, is that the characters. So, if you've been learning, say, French or Spanish before, they all use the Latin script, the alphabet, 26 letters. With Chinese, you've got thousands of characters that you to learn if you want to read at a proficient level. I would say don't get too scared about that. Some people get a little, worried about that. They say, oh, there's thousands and thousands of characters. How am I going to learn all of these? There are, I think, 80,000 characters altogether, including the obsolete ones. But if you want to read something substantial, if you want to read something like a newspaper, you really only need to learn about 3,000 characters, right? And if you want to, sort of understand more basic texts, even 1,000 characters, even a few hundred characters, you can start to understand a lot of basic text. You can get these graded readers now, which you can buy online, which make up stories that include about 300 characters, and they're long stories. You'd be surprised at how long a story you could get with 300 characters, using 300 characters, So yeah, don't get worried about the character thing. It's a steady progression. You're going to be learning them over an extended period of time, but don't get too worried about that in the beginning. So so focus on the tones, focus on the characters, and be realistic about your goals. Another thing I will say is that if you don't live in China, that's not the end of the world. You can also create your own language environment outside of China. You don't need to be in China. There are people who live in China, foreigners who've been here for 10 years, and maybe they don't speak the language very well because they've maybe just spend a lot of time with English-speaking friends, and so they don't get that immersion. So you can create a language environment in your own country, in your own home. How can you do that? There's a lot of ways you can do that. One thing is you can start, well, it depends on your level, but you could change your phone and computer interface language into Chinese. That's one thing you could do. You could also watch your favorite movies in Chinese, which is what I have done before, and I found it to be a very good study technique. You like Harry Potter, Star Wars, whatever it is, you can watch those movies dubbed in Chinese, and that is a good way to study. So that's one technique. You can even watch a show like Friends. Friends, the American show. You can watch that in Chinese too. Or cartoons, anything. There's lots of things dubbed in Chinese. You can play games in Chinese. You can even go on the Chinese internet, go onto Chinese YouTube, go onto Youku or Bilibili or something like that. So you can create your own language environment outside of China. It's just up to you how proactive you want to be. And you just need to take the initiative and sort of create that immersion yourself. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Liam. I got a lot of, useful tips. You know, it's something that I never thought before, watching movie with Chinese subtitle. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think I'm going to like try it right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I watch Netflix like almost every day, but you know, you're just so comfortable with English subs or like even my own language Indonesian subs that I don't even think of like using Chinese subs over there. But yeah, I think it's going to be make like a huge difference. Like hopefully it's going to improve my Chinese level as well and also for the other students. Yeah, again, thanks a lot for sharing this useful tips to us. Right,
Yeah.
so
Great to talk to you.
cool, cool, cool. And then I realized that actually there is like another challenge for Chinese learners, right? So, you know, like learning new vocabularies, learning how to write and everything may not be that difficult. But when it comes to speaking, that's like it creates another problem, you know. Like for me myself, I'm not really confident in speaking Chinese. So whenever I'm in China and then I had to speak Chinese, I feel like my brain froze for a while and then I lost everything. It's like I feel like I never knew Chinese before, and then I feel like this type of situation happens to like many of us, the Chinese learners. It's probably just because we're not really confident in speaking Chinese, or you know, we feel like we don't really know a lot of vocabularies or anything that hinders us from speaking Chinese, and we're just way too comfortable in speaking English or any other languages. So like you know, I've heard you speak Chinese just now. And like, do you have any tips or tricks on like how to, you know, improve the speaking skills for Chinese learners?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Confidence is a big influencer in your speaking ability, right? And how fast you can learn the spoken language. I would say just embrace the embarrassment that comes with learning a new language. You know, when I first came to China, there were lots of situations where I did not know what was going on. And I had to do some things like, you know, open up a bank or even order food, you know, and I just didn't know how to use the language, but I had to put myself in that situation. And through that situation, I actually learned something, even though it was embarrassing as hell because it's so awkward not being able to understand the other person and they don't understand you. But when you put yourself in those kinds of situations, you learn faster. You put yourself in a survival situation. Your brain is going to force itself. It's going to force you to learn faster. You know, because you have to learn in that kind of environment. So put yourself in embarrassing situations. Intentionally put yourself in those situations, and just also realize that um, you know, you're always going to make mistakes, especially in the beginning. You're supposed to make mistakes. You have to make them in order to learn. Nobody speaks fluent Chinese or English or Indonesian from day one,
Right,
you know?
that's right, that's right.
It's never going to be like that. You have to make a lot of mistakes. So you need to also embrace the fact that you're going to make mistakes. Don't be like, oh no, I said a mistake. He's going to think I'm an idiot now. Oh no, no, no. Get rid of that perfectionistic mindset because that's only going to hold you back. You know, you have to embrace this embarrassment and the fact that you're going to make loads of mistakes. Even very advanced learners like you know, Dashan, I think Mark Roswell, he's a famous Canadian who lives in China. He maybe speaks perhaps the best Chinese that I've ever heard of from a foreigner. And he admitted, you know, he's been in China for 30 years. He said that he still makes mistakes. He still makes mistakes with the tones even now, you know, and he speaks the best Chinese. So I would just say, you know, acknowledge and accept that mistakes are a part of the learning process. I find that a lot of Chinese students learning English also have this problem. Um, they don't want to speak out. They only want to speak out when they think what they are about to say is perfect English. They want to make sure that they've got everything absolutely right and the grammar is perfect, and only then can they sort of, speak the language. It doesn't work that way. You have to mess around with the grammar. You're going to make mistakes. Don't be too anal about the grammar. Yeah, and the grammar, I think, can be quite forgiving with Chinese compared to some other languages. You could mess up the word order a little bit, and I think Chinese people will generally be able to understand what you mean. I mess up the word order all the time, and Chinese people seem to understand me. So don't let that hinder you from speaking. So yeah, just embrace the embarrassment. Put yourself in situations. If you're not in China, go to the Chinese restaurant and speak Chinese with the waitress. I remember when I spoke Chinese, I think it was when I first came to China, the first couple of weeks, and the waitress, she just laughed at me. She just laughed at me because my Chinese was so bad. And I was like, oh, this is embarrassing. But then later I was like, so what? It doesn't matter. You have to go through that, and you're gonna learn faster anyway if you do put yourself in embarrassing situations. If you're hiding in the corner and not wanting to engage or participate in conversations, you're gonna learn really slowly. So yeah, put yourself out there and don't care what other people think.
Oh, thanks a lot, Liam, for the tips again. I think I need to put myself in more embarrassing situations. Why do you think learning Chinese is important?
Well, I mean, it's China is the second largest economy in the world now. Their economy has exploded over the past decades. They're one of the biggest trading partners of the EU. One of the biggest investors in the UK. So there's endless work opportunities that are going to come out of you if you decide to learn Chinese. Absolutely. You're going to get access to 1.4 billion people. That's like nearly 20% of the world population. Nearly 1 in 5 of people are Chinese. If you learn Mandarin, you can communicate with them because not all of them speak English.
That's right.
So you're going to get access to a larger range of people that you can communicate with, and that's naturally going to open doors for you as well. Another thing as well is if you're from a country, in Europe, like the UK or, France or Germany, whatever it is, there's not that many Chinese speakers. Chinese people, there's not that many people who are learning Chinese. So you're going to be in a minority, and that's a good thing because you have more access to opportunities. So the China is going to be a big part of the future, and it will help you a lot in your career if you decide to learn Chinese. That's just indisputable. Whatever route you want to go down. So I think that's enough motivation in and of itself to study the language. And of course, you may well be interested in the culture as well, the food, the history, all those things you can get a deeper understanding of if you decide to learn Mandarin.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Liam. So before we end the interview, do you have anything you'd like to share or you'd like to add, probably?
I encourage people to learn Chinese, but at the same time, obviously, be realistic about your goals. The Foreign Service Institute in America, they did some studies that looked at the amount of class hours it took for the recruits to learn languages. And they found that, for the recruits that were learning French or Spanish or Italian, it took maybe around 600 class hours to reach a specific proficient level, a working proficient level. And for languages like Chinese or Japanese or Arabic, it took about over 2,000 hours. So there's a longer time it takes to learn a language, but the rewards will be more if you decide to take that route. So have a long-term plan. Don't get discouraged if you find that you're in the beginner stage for a while, because once you reach the intermediate level, things get better. You will start to be able to communicate much more easily with Chinese people. You'll be able to start reading native text, and then, you know, it's just going to snowball, and you're going to really reap the benefits. So you just have to persevere in that beginner to intermediate stage, and things get better. Yeah, that's all I have to say now.
Cool. Thanks a lot for everything that you just shared today, and also thank you for spending some time for doing the interview with us. I hope that the classes at University Nottingham Ningbo will go well for you in the future. Although I guess you're taking online classes, or are you taking it on campus?
Yeah, I'm still taking the BLCU online classes. So I'm still taking them online while I'll be doing my masters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I hope that all of your studies go well, both at BLCU and also at UNNC. And then I'll see you around when I'm back in China, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Nadia. All the best. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.